Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to look at Blood of the Virgin by Sammy Harkham, a 2023 graphic novel collection of a story that was 14 years in the making. This story was serialized in Sammy Harkham's one-man anthology, Crickets. I guess starting in like 2009 roughly. And this came out in 2023, published by Pantheon. Really nice hardcover, very thick. And this is just, in the past 5 years, this is one of the graphic novels that has really hit me and just been like, whoa, almost like the same feeling I got reading, the Hernandez brothers when I was younger. There's plenty of graphic novels that are doing startling visual stuff and, but this is just a damn good story, just incredibly well written, really well observed characters, amazingly naturalistic dialogue. It's just very, very good. Pretty fat, as you can see. This is a substantial novel. We got some blurbs on the back from some fancy pantses, including Jaime Hernandez. It's got that typical book flap thing. I'll get rid of the book flap. Little bio of the cartoonist. These end papers and throughout, there's these little color breaks that are very interesting. Actually, before I get to that though, I just want to say how I love this very bland logo. And because it looks like a book from 1971. That's when the story takes place. It's totally like a book I would have gotten at the library from my childhood. Kind of interesting typography there. This is what I was talking about. These really interesting color choices for throughout the book. Sometimes these will be used as chapter breaks even. And this beautiful spread here, the title spread. I don't know if this was in Crickets. I think this might have been made for the book. Really nice stuff. Here's what I'm talking about. One of these interesting hued pages. Just a little pin-up. And we start with the graphic novel. First off, I love Sammy Harkham's art. So simple. He's not reinventing the wheel. But like the old saying goes, what's wrong with the wheel? It doesn't need to be reinvented. It's just a very simple, very classic cartooning. And he's not like playing with I'm going to do these trippy graphics or anything. He doesn't need it because it's just amazingly well-written stuff. So we meet our character Seymour being interrupted in a masturbatory revelry while he's in the shower. Because they live in a small apartment, he realizes his wife is brushing his teeth while he's in the shower trying to jerk off. And very quickly, through his great use of dialogue, in just the first page, we just totally see where these characters are at. They haven't been married long, they've just had a kid, and, they just have this basic tolerance for each other. The romance is long gone from this relationship. But it's not like Edward Albee, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. It's less dramatic than that. It's just like real life, where it's just like, God, this is the way it is. It's not high drama or anything, but. And now we see. Oh, I forgot to mention. I should mention his wife's name is Ida. She's the second main character of the book. So we find out that Seymour works in the film industry. He works for a very crappy, exploitative type film company called Reverie. It's not even as good as Roger Corman stuff. It's really grindhouse. They don't give a shit about art. They're just making money. He's an editor. He's been working there. It seems like he's been working there quite a while. He gets home from work. We see much more of this domestic scene. she's exhausted from taking care of the baby. It's interesting how we get a whole little recipe here, how to on how to make this certain dish. Sorry, I meant to say odd artistic choice, I thought. And all of this dialogue is just so good, so dead on, so realistic. It's amazing. You can almost, while you're reading it, you can hear it in your head. It's like, yeah, this is how people talk. So just like other couples, in this situation, you can tell they don't have sex often. When they do, it's sometimes just like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this. It's not very romantic. And we see that Seymour isn't totally mature. He's kind of like, gets up in a huff just because his wife didn't want to have sex. Brings the TV in so he can watch one of his the crappy horror movies that he loves so much. So a lot of this is very slow paced. I mean, it is just, I read somewhere that, Harkham's a big fan of like Cassavetes. It seems like, a movie like that from the 70s. Where it's just like, no, we're showing you, this is a character study, many characters, and it's not about like, oh, this like crazy plot twists and stuff like that. Once again, like real life. So he has a meeting with his boss, Val. He's the guy who owns Reverie Pictures. And once again, amazing dialogue. You can totally get a sense of who Val is. Not a total tyrant, like a cartoon villain, but obviously a guy who's gotten rich by just exploiting people, and not that ethical, but also not a monster. Kind of a nice guy if you know him, on the surface. And basically, this is one of the big plot things, is that they have to make a movie, some Southern drive-in chain. It's like movies made to order. It's like complete, there's no art involved. It's just like widgets. And he's just like, hey, we need a werewolf movie. I heard you got a werewolf script. It's going to be we're going to buy it from you. And you're going to be a producer on the movie. There's no director yet, and we realize that Seymour really wants to direct. So once again, he asks Val, he's like, what, can I direct this? He's like, nah, you're not quite ready. And I guess Val's been telling him that for years. I just love Sammy Harkham's art. It's not like, it's just a comic art, I should say. It's not like I would hire him to paint a mural on my wall. Well, I might actually. He's really good when he does get all graphically kooky. But for comics, this flows so well. He's just, I think he's a master storyteller. So we see Seymour at the job, doing special effects. And now we meet Joy. And Joy's an old friend of Seymour's. Here she is. I realized rereading this last night how much his art in some places actually reminds me of Charles Schultz. Like I never noticed that before, but some of the faces in here, it's just like very simply drawn, but conveying so much emotion, just like the Peanuts characters did. So it almost seems like they've got this chummy, yet slightly flirty, in kind of like a brother-sister type of way, but more than that, because it is flirty. So, we don't know what's going to happen yet. He gets home from work, and they get in a little fight again. I like this how we get to see scenes from these movies. This is a movie Joy was in, some horror movie. This movie is definitely a love letter to this era of cinema. And it's weird how, I'm kind of into that. Not enough that I buy books about it and stuff. But man, this makes me more interested in it. This stuff about just the film industry then and Seymour's, what he does. It's really interesting. At least to me. It might be really boring to some people. But that was a nice side thing of this book, other than the great characters and things. So once again, he's talking to Val, and apparently he hired a director. And Val's actually asking him about his family. He never knew like anything about Seymour. He's like, oh, you're Iraqi? I didn't know that. I thought you were Egyptian or something there. I don't know. So Seymour is an Iraqi Jew, an immigrant. And constantly throughout the book, people mistake him. One guy calls him Mohammed at one point. Someone thinks he's actually Native American. They're so ignorant, they don't know what Iraqi is. So Seymour goes to this Halloween party. You know, I think it's at Val's place. You know, it's a movie industry party. And Ida can't make it. That's what this scene, I guess the babysitter doesn't show or something like that. And we see that, like, he instantly, Seymour thinks to himself, freedom. He's thrilled to go to the party without her. So we can totally see where their relationship's at. As soon as he gets there, Seymour gets us into some nerdy film talk. He's a total buff, you know. He's like one of the nerdy guys who knows all the directors. Now, this scene is just very odd. He stumbles into a room looking for a bathroom or something. People are doing coke in there. There's a stripper. The stripper does a little dance. She kind of gets cozy with Seymour. Seymour does some coke. And then this one guy grabs her by the arm, the stripper, and he strangles her to death. So this is like one of the moments in the book where it's just like, wait, this is a dream sequence, right? This is because nothing happens after this. It's not like the police show up or Seymour is scarred. So it's some kind of just something he imagined, I guess, while he was on coke. Ida's at home handing out candy. And now we cut back to Seymour. And he runs into Joy. And you can kind of tell he's kind of into Joy. Joy's an actress. And kind of like a tomboy, very likable, cute woman, attractive woman. And they ditch the party, they get drunk. They can have a fun night of drunken revelry. And then they go back to the party. And they go to outside. And they start macking on each other. So we realize that Seymour isn't the best guy. He never seems to have any guilt about this incident. So I think it's maybe something that's happened before. Here's the director of the movie, Oswald, his name is. So he's the guy slotted to do Blood of the Innocent, to be the director. Look at that Charles Schultz-like face right there. It looks like Linus, if Linus was a hippie and all grown up. So Joy leaves, and you can tell that he's very bummed. This reminds me of Jaime Hernandez a lot. These kind of lots of ink, very shadowy scenes. I'm not sure what this has to do with anything. This is a cover of one of the Crickets. And I don't know why he put that in there. Oh, maybe it's from one of these movies. Oh, look, it looks like it is. So this is their filming Blood of the Virgin. And Seymour has never had this much responsibility. He's technically a producer, even though everyone still is like, fuck you. Like, they don't give him much respect. But he is in contact with Val and is helping guide the production. And then we see the scene where we cut back to the household, and the baby's just crying, and Ida's completely ignoring the baby so she can masturbate. So we see that, it's not just one-sided. Both of them are sexually frustrated and just like, oh, well, gotta take care of business. So then we are introduced to Myrna. She's like a production assistant. She's just a really sweet woman, very competent. She kind of keeps everything going. Whenever there's a problem, it's like Myrna solves it. She has a boyfriend, or maybe a husband, in Vietnam. And I guess she's been, it's very hard on her. So we see all the conflicts on the set. There's this drunken old timer who's kind of fucking up because he's drinking all the time. We see more of that really nice night scenes going on. These guys have an interesting relationship. They still can joke around with each other. But they're basically roommates, Roommates who like each other. And they're both pretty interesting characters. Now we're back on the movie set. And to Seymour's surprise, he wanted to resent Oswald since he wanted to direct. But he finds that Oswald's pretty good. Oswald comes from a more artsy background. Like, he's a fan of Antonioni and stuff like that. But he's actually kind of impressed and kind of learning things by watching him, work. He's also still flirting with Joy. And we also meet, I should have mentioned this earlier, the star of the film is Pearce, which is short for Percival, or is it Perce? Everyone calls him Perce. And, he's a leading man, so he's kind of vain, kind of arrogant. And we find out that him and Joy used to have something going on. But that's definitely over. Just more of this film set stuff, which I find kind of fascinating. But we're also learning about all the characters throughout these scenes. This new actress shows up. She's supposed to play like the old hag. How, this scary old lady in a lot of horror movies. And she's very salty. Hooks up with one of the young PAs. So there's already problems with Oswald. He's not showing up to the set. And Paris definitely doesn't get along with him. In fact, he punches him right here. So it's problematic. So Seymour goes to see Val. I don't understand what this is right here. It looks like he has snow on his head. Is that supposed to be some kind of highlight? I don't know. This is how well Val lives. While everyone who works for him lives like in shitty apartments. This so looks like an old comic strip. Like this is like Roy Crane or something. Excuse me, guys. So Val is not happy with Oswald. He apparently, did things that went against the commandments that Val laid down. But actually, Seymour's defending him. Seymour's saying he's pretty good. I don't know. And Val is not convinced. And Val says, he's off the picture. You're going to be the director from now on. And Seymour should be thrilled, but it almost seems like he's like, oh, okay. But we do see that he's obviously excited because he barfs when he leaves. So he goes over to Oswald's house. I guess he's tasked with telling Oswald he's off the picture. Oswald realizes a total hippie. Almost stereotypical type hippie. So he tells him, and Oswald seems like he's taking it okay. And he asks Seymour, so who's directing now? And Seymour's honest. He says, me, probably. And then he says, I learned a lot from you, Oswald. And he means it. And I love this. Oswald just calmly walks up to him and starts strangling him. This calm, peaceful hippie. But he's on a lot of drugs. So now back on the set, Seymour is now in charge. So Seymour gets a call. Oswald's in the hospital. He goes to pick him up, and Oswald is just fucked up. He is just like probably drunk off his ass, probably high, and just being rowdy. And we realize Seymour overall is a pretty good guy, though, except he has problems with fidelity. But he like totally offers to, pick him up, even though he tried to strangle him. These are some more of those beautiful scenes. So forget about what I said earlier about like nice graphic stuff. This is just gorgeous to me. But for the most part, he's just doing simple classical cartooning. Just it's all in service to the story. Kind of interesting, this scene of why he spent, I wonder why he spent 4 to 5 pages, 6, just showing this night drive. I mean, maybe to show off how good he draws LA at night. But I guess he's not the nicest guy, because he actually drives him all the way home and just kicks him out. Or he falls out the door and he leaves him there asleep on his lawn. Chapter break. So now there's another party, and this time Ida is going. She's not too thrilled. She doesn't like going to these parties because it's all like film people she doesn't have much in common with. Really like this kind of unnecessary, but it's like in a movie. All of a sudden it's like, ta-da! title card and everything. At this party, there's a lot of old Jews there, people who like, from the 30s and stuff. And they're all talking about, their homelands. Some of these guys, I think, came from Iraq too, or that region. And they were longingly talking about how much they loved their homeland, Baghdad. And they're just talking about how great Baghdad was, but now it's not, and everything's been ruined by the conflicts. We see Ida sitting amongst all these middle-aged ladies just glaring. She's not having a good time at all. And Seymour's just working the crowd, chatting with everyone. They leave the party. They get in a pretty nasty fight and just yelling at each other. But then, see, this is the thing. Sammy Harkham, very classical storytelling. It's not no Chris Ware stuff or whatever. But he also, the structuring of the scenes is pretty out there. Because look at this. We see this, and then all of a sudden we cut away to this, which I don't think is that same night. I could be wrong. People's moods do change pretty quickly, especially if there's a cute baby involved. But we have this page, which is very kind of sweet, of them just loving on their kid. Just like, oh my God, he's so fucking cute. And they're having a great time. So maybe it is that night. I doubt it, though. I think this is a flashback to when they were happier. He does draw the kid very cute. Back to the film set. Seymour realizes that a lot of his time now is running to the phone to call Val about shit. So, but I think overall he likes this, you know. He likes to be the one. Not that he's a power mad guy. He just he loves movies. So he now has the ability to make a good movie or at least guide it. But he's got to deal with all this shit. He's got to deal with Purse and Joy. Purse hates Joy now. He literally is just like, ah, she's a fucking piece of trash. Look at that Charles Schultz right there. They can't get a babysitter again, so they have a little movie night. I remember doing this. My dad had a little projector, and you had those little movies that were about 7 minutes long. And they just have a various reel of cartoons and old clips and stuff. That was before VCRs. They go to a hot dog stand. And the sequence is very odd how, you know, they're just chatting at the hot dog stand. And he starts remembering when the baby was born. Because the baby's in the back seat there. And he doesn't share it with Ida. He says, remember when Junior was born? We were in the hospital that night. And he goes into this long, kind of moving, kind of remembrance of how special it was. But he's not sharing it with Ida. He's thinking it. It's all in word balloons. I thought this is very interesting. It seems like one of the things that if he did share it with her, that would be for once a nice, tender moment between the two. And then Joy shows up. And once again, Sammy Harkham shows off his chops. And shows that, through the great dialogue, sharp dialogue, we realize Ida totally suspects that her husband's been fucking Joy. And I love this way he does it. You know, I forgot to mention, guys, earlier Ida did some self-harm to herself. She put her hand purposefully in front of on top of a steaming kettle, burnt her hand. And people have been asking her about it throughout. And, you know, she lies about it. She says, whatever. So Joy asks her, she blows smoke in her face and she says, oh, I punched a dumb cunt in the face. But she has a smile on her face. So, yeah, Ida's a pretty cool, she's a tough cookie. So now they do actually seem to have sex, and it's pretty explicit, but it's also just nice to see these guys actually, okay, you at least still have some component of your romance. You know, it's not all dead. So the next morning, Ida is leaving for New Zealand for 3 weeks to see her folks. Her parents live there, and her sister. That's where she grew up. And I should have mentioned she's Jewish too, even though I don't know if that matters to the story. Well, it definitely does later for the plot. You'll realize she's Jewish. He actually almost buys a ticket and says, I don't want to leave. I'm going with you. But then he realizes, no, I got to finish this movie. So he really does seem like he's going to miss her. It's unlike that party where he was just like, freedom, all right. Though he does kind of exploit his freedom by going to a burlesque house. He even buys a drink for one of the strippers, so yeah, when the cat is away, the mice will play. He's not having a second thought about oh, my wife's out of town. I'm going to try to get laid. And he goes home to his sad, lonely house. Now, here's where things really take a left turn. And this is Blood of the Virgin, this is called. Now, let me show you guys. This came out, I think, before this graphic novel, or maybe after. I'm not going to embiggen the screen. But a giant, as you can see, Sammy Harkham took this chapter and put it into this giant-sized comic. It's pretty much the same thing. It looks really good big, though, I gotta say. Even though it looks pretty damn fine small, too. But this is just a nice thing to own. It's just so beautiful seeing this art so big. And there are some things that aren't in it, in the graphic novel. You know, these sketches, this kind of cool back cover. So I just wanted to show that off. If you really love Sammy Harkham, something to look for. I think it's not even that expensive for what a beautiful production it is. And so, okay, this is where it really takes a left turn, guys. Because I don't see how this has anything to do with the graphic novel, except that it takes place in Hollywood. But this takes place in the early days of Hollywood. And I find this fascinating, this kind of shit. We see this cowboy in Coconino, Arizona. A little maybe reference to Crazy Cat, 1915. He isn't satisfied being a, cowboy. And I guess there's a film production the next town over. His ranch boss basically says, hey, you got to get over there and help them out. They need a cowboy to help them with some shit. Ride some horses or whatever. And he does. And it looks like he's kind of into it. He's kind of curious about what they're doing. And he works really hard. They even say, like, hey, do you want a little extra work? And he's like, sure, I don't got to be back at the ranch. So he stays late, helps him out, take down the sets and everything. And the producer is so impressed. His name's Bert. He gives him his card. He says, if you're ever in LA, look me up. Back at the ranch, Joe, that's his name, our protagonist, he's feeding pigs, and it's not very glamorous work. He's getting in fights with his co-workers, kind of give him shit. So he says, fuck it. Goes to LA. So I love these just scenes of LA in like 1915. I think he's got no money at all. Staying in flop houses. He keeps trying to see this guy Bert, and they won't let him on the lot. He's basically got nothing. He doesn't even have shoes after he falls asleep in this park. And these guys steal his shoes. By the way, these colors, just fucking gorgeous. So he finally sneaks onto the lot, meets Bert, and his career begins. And we see, just through, it doesn't tell us what year it is. It's just Sammy Harkham being a smart writer and a great cartoonist, makes everything very clear. We're just traveling through the decades. Well, first years and then decades. And we see LA growing around him. He, at first is just a grunt worker for Bert. Then he starts it looks like he becomes a director, or at least cameraman. Kind of more in charge of production, making movies for Bert. He's rising up in the world a little, but as the story progresses, we realize that I guess this could be why this is in this graphic novel. It kind of mirrors Val and Seymour's relationship, where Bert is kind of taking advantage of Joe, because Joe is very valuable. All his cowboy skills, and it turns out he's pretty good at making movies. Look at this very Gasoline Alley-like page. This totally reminds me of that. They got to run from the cops all the time because they don't have filming permits. So it's a very exciting time in Hollywood, the pioneer days, if you will. And sometimes it's a half page, sometimes it's 2 pages, but we just see little snapshots in time. Joe's getting older, getting more duties, getting a little more bitter that Bert, doesn't cut him in that much. And then we see what LA is becoming. And now Joe's an old man in his pretty nice house, it looks like. It looks like he did well for himself. And this guy Ben stops over. He's in the film business. And he says, hey, I'm really glad you came to Bert's funeral today. I know you guys had that falling out. And I love this unsentimentality of this. Bert basically just says, yeah, the only reason I went is to make sure he was dead. I was the last person he'd want there, and that's why I went. Like basically to piss him off. He says, because I could stand over him and not the other way around. He lost, I won. Pretty harsh stuff. And you could tell Ben is kind of like, I shouldn't have said anything. And he leaves Joe all alone. So whatever it is, I don't really understand why it's in the middle of this graphic novel. It's an amazing story. I loved it in the, that comic I just showed you, just reading it by itself. I think that's where it belongs. So this scene, we see Seymour right in his car in this kind of, it almost looks like a post-apocalyptic LA. And these guys with hammers chasing after him. Obviously, not to be a spoiler, but it's a nightmare. It's a dream sequence. You can almost tell by the way the panel borders are different. It's like Dell Comics. They are no borders. The hard inked borders. So he wakes up and he gets back to work, working on the movie. And, you could tell he's getting more into it. He's just like, wow, all these things I can add to the movie to make it better. Because he's a total nerd. So he's always had ideas for movies, how to make them better. And now he actually gets to do it. When he gets home, Oswald's waiting for him. And Oswald looks much the worse for wear. It looks like he's just a drunk now. Maybe homeless. And Seymour lets him stay the night. He's heading to San Francisco. Back on the set, we kind of realized that Myrna, I believe that's her name. Myrna? Okay, we'll find out if I'm wrong later. The production assistant. We kind of realized that maybe she has a little bit of a crush on Seymour. So, right in the middle of the production, the guy right over Seymour, he's kind of like Val's underling, shows up with a bullhorn and says, "We are finishing production earlier than anticipated. This movie is officially wrapped. Thank you. Everyone go home." And Seymour's like, "What? We don't have enough footage." And the guy just says, "You're an editor. You'll make it work." Seymour's pretty devastated because he knows it's going to be a piece of shit. All the things he wanted to do, now it's game over. He can't do it. So while he's away that day, I guess Oliver's been staying at his home. He says, "Your wife called. Your son started to walk and she wanted you to know." So he shows up at the airport when she's supposed to arrive, and she's not on the plane. Which I think is kind of odd that he just gets back to work. Maybe she told him, like, I might stay a little longer. I don't know, but he showed up at the airport waiting for her, doesn't show up. And then he's in bed saying, "Ida, where the fuck are you?" But he's not like, I don't know, like I'd be calling every 10 minutes, calling her parents. So Seymour goes back to the film place, and they just took the film from him. They just wanted to rush it out. They don't give a shit if it's done or not. Seymour's furious and kind of gets in trouble. I mean, he really overreacts, and this might not be good for his job. We see some more of this great night stuff. And Seymour's so bummed he goes to a movie house, because I guess you could tell that this was his, palace of solace. That's why he's such a nerd. He really likes going to movies. He goes to the theater. Two tall people sit right in front of him, this couple. They start making out so he can't even see. So he's really pissed off. He's not having a good day in the first place, and he leaves the theater grumbling. He tries to go back to the office. Can't get in. He he loaned his keys to someone else. A cop shows up and says, "Run along before I book you, Rummy." Okay, he didn't talk like a Edward G. Robinson, but that's basically what he told him. So now he drives up to Val's house, and they're having a party. In fact, it's a wrap party for Blood of the Virgin, which he wasn't invited to. So it really does look like he's persona non grata now by making this whole huzzarai about that at the end of the movie. Joy's there, but Seymour's loaded for bear. Tries to goes upstairs, just says, "Where's Val?" And his second in command, he has to get rough with him. And so Seymour falls down the stairs. This is humiliating. And then good old true blue Myrna says, "Let me drive you home. You're drunk. You can't drive. You just fell down some steps." And then he gets her drunk. And I guess they stop for some liquor. And she's not used to drinking. And, you can tell something's going on here. When they get back to her apartment and they're dancing to music, we see her husband in Vietnam. And she obviously is just like, "No, don't go, one more song." She really has made her mind up that she's going to get some action. And both of them very drunk. They get together. Sometime it looks like the middle of the night, Seymour wakes up and sneaks out of the apartment. And we get more of these beautiful night scenes of driving through LA. And Seymour crashes his car because he's still drunk. And then he just abandons it. And so he goes to get some coffee at an all-night donut shop. And who should be there but that same police officer who was giving him shit earlier. And he says, "Hey, you wouldn't happen to be the owner of a blue Oldsmobile, would ya?" And we see him in jail. They booked him. So now this once again another very strange narrative choice. All of a sudden, this chapter is Budapest, 1942. We see this woman. Obviously, there's no husband around, with a child, and it seems like this child's very lovely and happy, and you can just tell without a word. There's not a word in this chapter. Sammy Harkham, just with his great storytelling, you can tell this is the center of this woman's life. She lives for her daughter. It's everything to her. She has to work in a factory all day, and just every panel they're together when she's not working and just happy. And then we realize we kind of forgot. Oh, it's 1942. You see all these Nazi posters up. They have to start wearing the Stars of David, the yellow Stars of David on their clothing. There's all these checkpoints she has to go through now just to go to work. So the Nazis are everywhere now. And unfortunately, they're Jewish. So we see them rounding them up, putting them on trains. And they take them to the camps. And the daughter is taken from the mother. The mother survives in the camps by basically being put on work detail. We see just the horrors of the concentration camps. This is rough stuff. All without a word. And she actually escapes the camps. And we see her walking through bombed out Budapest. And I don't know how she did this. I guess she got new white papers or something, but now it looks like she's back at work. And she gets on a Red Cross steamer. So this might be, you know what I realized? The war is probably over. The Nazis have been deposed. So she's got on with her life. But when the opportunity came to leave Budapest, this Red Cross boat she got on. Once again, the title card, Blood of the Virgin. And who is this person? Why is this here? Because it's Ida's mother in New Zealand. That's where the steamer took her. And now we're back to 1971. Ida's there. And apparently Seymour's been calling, and Ida doesn't seem to really care. The mother's like, Seymour called. It's like she runs to the phone to call him back. Seems like she's having a great time there. Of course, she's got the little baby, Junior. And New Zealand just looks like a lovely place to be. She works, helps out her dad at his little grocery store. And know what's really interesting about this chapter? How, well, it just swings to like, oh, now Ida's the main character. And we don't even see Seymour for a while. But we also realize how different people are when they're in those kind of relationships where your whole life is just like, I'm with this person. I don't have the energy to be like funny or have conversation. And we realize Ida's really funny and really sassy without, having to deal with this kind of, I don't know, crappy marriage. Maybe crappy is too strong a word, but like not a very sweet marriage. She has a sister who's anorexic. Oh, I'm sorry. I read a review that said she was probably. I don't know. Maybe they just read that into it. But whatever she is, she's very odd. And so she's like, it turns out she's going to extend her stay. That's why she didn't come home. She's just like, fuck Seymour. It seems like she really doesn't care if she never sees him again. So she's staying longer than 3 weeks, and she's partying with her old friends. And she runs into this one old friend who I think was more than a friend. I forgot his name, which is really weird because it's a really goofy name. Like, his name's Pisshead. That's what everyone calls him. And Pisshead's a pretty, lives up to his name. He's kind of a drunken tosser, I guess, as they'd say in that part of the world. And, kind of a roguish chap. And Ida gets a lot of enjoyment. You can tell from sassing him. She's really sharp as hell. Just kind of sassing everyone. And we realize that maybe Pisshead still has an interest in Ida. And so she agrees to go hang out with Pisshead. Sorry, we're not quite there yet. It's a lot of it is just really great character stuff, great dialogue, just her interacting with all of her old friends, her family. I can't get into all the nitty gritty, or I would be here for 2 hours. So here we get to the date. He's on his little motorcycle. She gets on back. And they head out into the night. Now we get some nice New Zealand night scenes. And they go off to get drunk. And he even asks about her husband. And she says, I'll give you a good price for him. So she's just, everything she says is a joke. She's a wiseacre. And she's kind of poking him and stuff, like it's kind of flirty. She cuts his hair later on. When he takes his shirt off after he's done, so he can go jump in the shower, you can tell, look at her face. She's like, She's feeling a little guilty, I think, because she's thinking about stuff. And she ends up sticking around, even though she knows she should go. And then when he gets out of the shower, he finds her on the porch. And I hate to say it, but this really reminds me of Jaime Hernandez. Even though it's different. And they end up macking out. And I'm pretty sure they spend the night together. Oh yeah, they definitely do. Because she does the walk of shame, as people call it, which I never understood that. I always thought of it as the walk of victory. And she kind of tries to act like she got home late last night. She tries to lie to her mother. The mother is such an interesting character. I mean, obviously what she went through in the earlier part of her life, but she rarely talks. All she does is kind of observe everyone. And she might say a little thing that's kind of like, oh, I know what you're up to. And now we see Pisshead. He wakes up the next day and he goes about his day, his job, goes out with the boys to have a drink. And look at that look on his face. You could tell that wasn't just a one-night stand. He's stuck on Ida. He's even peeping into their house. So he takes her out again, and it looks like they're going to be a couple, I guess. This scene's really interesting. Once again, showing how just good Sammy is sorry, I don't know the guy. Like his pal, Harkham is the I think this is a niece, this little girl. And Ida is putting makeup on her face. I don't know if it's Halloween or not. I don't know, it's not. And the mother sees her, Ida's mother, and then she sees her dead daughter from Budapest, from Hungary. Just a really powerful moment there. So Pisshead's outside. He says, Ida, I got something for you. And got her some kind of necklace with his house key on it. And then right then, Seymour shows up. So Seymour got a plane ticket and flew out. He hugs her, kind of says something kind of passively aggressive, kind of insulting to the guy, to Pisshead. He's like, oh, are you the gardener? And he runs in to see his baby. He's missed Junior. And she does not seem that thrilled that he's there. But she's like, okay, I'm his wife. She says, when do you want to leave? He says, now. So they're going to leave pretty soon. Tom goes into a bar. I'm sorry, Tom. I don't know why. Seymour goes into a bar, have a few drinks, play some pool, and Pisshead walks in and beats the living shit out of him. So I guess Pisshead really loves Ida, or he's just a psychopath. And then we see Pisshead riding his motorcycle. And here's one of the things, I guess that is kind of graphically not like that classical. I like this lines. This is how fast he's driving, and he doesn't care about anything else. I don't know if it's implying that he kills himself on the motorcycle. I doubt it. I think I'm just reading that into it, but once again, interesting colors here. And so now this last chapter, I'm a little confused by. We're back in LA. We hear all these old-timey jokes. I don't know where they're coming from. Maybe it's this barber shop where Seymour's getting a haircut. Maybe the guy's listening to an old comedy record, because this stuff wouldn't be on the radio. It's a little too non-FCC approved. Once again, we see that snow on the top of his head. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I know it's not snow, but is it a really weird yarmulke? I don't think so. So he goes to see Val. Obviously, things have very cooled between them. Val gives him the surprising news that Blood of the Virgin has actually made a lot of money. And he offers him a check, kind of buying him out. And he won't accept it. And Val's like, take the goddamn check. You don't want it, but your wife wants it, your son wants it. Don't be stupid. And he won't take the check. Which is pretty stupid because he's out of work. And he does have a wife and kid. He sees Joy across the street with one of her beaux. And then he kind of runs into this guy in the street who asks for a match. And Seymour says, Myron Finkel? It turns out this guy was a movie guy. Seymour starts totally fanboying on him. He's like, the girl with x-ray eyes, the teardrop killers. I love your films. Let me buy you lunch. And this is a great little scene here. Really sharp writing, sharp dialogue. So this guy's obviously, he's basically almost like a hobo. But he was once a pretty successful exploitation guy who actually made movies like guys like Seymour, Revere. And, he asked Seymour about, what's up with Reverie Pictures and his position. And he starts just telling him, it's like, dude, you're going to be there forever. You're never going to get ahead. You're never going to become a director. He's almost like he's the Oracle of Delphi, giving him his future. He starts talking about his career, how, sometimes I got awards and stuff, and Parisian critics were saying how vital my work was. It doesn't matter. It's all shit. The film studio still reamed me, And then he got a heroin habit. He apparently is clean now, but he's drinking 4 martinis with lunch, so definitely has addictions. But this is like one of those scenes, like almost like the Ned Beatty scene in Network. It's just, he's like dropping all this science on Seymour's head, and some of it's pretty great. I like this line, you won't spite them, because what is spite but swallowing poison and expecting the other guy to get sick? I know that's an old saying, but he just tells all this stuff to Seymour, like he's just laying it out for him. And Seymour really can't refute it. And then he lied to the waitress, said it was his birthday so he could get a free cupcake. And then everyone applauds. And that's how the scene ends, with applause. And this guy just winks at Seymour. Okay, this is the last scene of the book, one of the last scenes, and I don't understand it at all. So now we see Seymour and Ida. They're walking. They've got a sitter taking care of the baby. And they see kind of like a condemned house. A very nice house, almost like a little mansion. And they say, hey, you want to look inside? Want to break in? It's unlocked. And it's them walking through this abandoned mansion. Ida tells him about the story about the cat with the bell and the mice. And we just see them wandering through this mansion. So I'm not sure if I'm just a really terrible reader, but I don't know what this is. This Val's mansion? I don't understand. It's still an interesting scene nonetheless. And then we see, so this is my interpretation of it. I believe this is it's almost the last page. It is the last page, really. They kiss. And at first, his eyes are closed, her eyes are open, looking at him like. And I don't know if you guys have ever caught someone looking at you when they're kissing. They're obviously not into it. They're thinking about, they're looking at you like, how do I feel about this? So we see her, and then her eyes do close. This is totally my interpretation, but maybe this means that, they're going to work through their shit. And there is some core affection still exists. I don't know, though. But I thought that was a really interesting way to show it. See eyes opening and then closing again, just like, dive in. The water's fine. And then we have this nice end card. And we see Blood of the Virgin isn't even... All these shitty movies, it's not even the top billed one. It's the middle of a triple bill. Really nice ending there. More of these cool colored pages. And that is it for Blood of the Virgin by Sammy Harkham. I did want to show you guys one more thing. It's the cover of Crickets #8, which is Blood of the Virgin related, and I don't know why it wasn't printed because it's gorgeous. I love this cover, and it really kind of sums up these guys. Just like all these weird freaks on the LA street there. And I don't know, it's a great cover. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Sorry it was so long, but this is a very long graphic novel. I wish I could have been more perceptive about like the themes and stuff, but I'm not that good at that stuff. I'm a meat and potatoes, stupid caveman type of person. But I know what I like, and this was one of the best graphic novels I've read in so long. It really hit me hard, and I don't really know why, because I'm not an artist. I'm not a good writer. So I'm always fascinated when, like, what is this guy doing differently than that guy? That this hits me so hard. I'm not sure, but I try to figure it out. I'm not an expert, but suffice to say, this is great. I think you won't be let down if you read this and or buy it. It's good stuff. And kudos to you, Mr. Harkham. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.